Waitress warns Millionaire about his friend. Next day, a luxury car arrives at her door. A millionaire was eating at a restaurant. A waitress approached his table to take his order. She had worked at this restaurant for many years and had served all kinds of customers, rich and poor. But there was something about this customer that made her uncomfortable. As the waitress approached the table, she could see that the man was wearing expensive clothes. His Rolex shone brightly under the restaurant's lights. Even from a distance, she could tell that he was wearing clothes from the most exclusive brands. This man was clearly rich. But that wasn't what made the waitress nervous. What really made her uneasy was the man's friend, who sat next to him. Looked like a common bum, someone who hadn't bathed in weeks. He smelled like stale waste and dirt. It was clear he wasn't a regular customer. The waitress approached the table and asked the wealthy man, "What can I get for you?" The man in fine clothes smiled politely and said, "A glass of your best champagne, please." The waitress nodded and turned to the other man. "And for you, sir?" she asked cautiously. "What can I get for you?" The bum looked up from his drink and said, "Bring me a glass of water." The waitress was puzzled. Why would a rich man come to such an expensive restaurant with a homeless person? She thought maybe the man didn't know the homeless man, and that he had just sat down next to him by chance. But as she watched them, she realized that wasn't true. They were chatting merrily and seemed to be good friends. When the food arrived, the waitress couldn't help but stare at the homeless man. She saw him use a spoon to eat caviar from a golden plate. He ate like a king. While the millionaire ate quickly, the homeless man took his time to savor each bite. After he finished eating, the bum pushed his plate away and said to the waitress, "Bring me the bill, please." The waitress was confused. Didn't he just have a drink and some appetizers? How could he expect to pay for the meal without ordering anything? The waitress knew the prices at the restaurant. Even the appetizers alone cost more than what the bum had eaten or drunk. When the waitress brought the bill to the table, the rich man paid it without even looking at it. He stood up, put on his jacket, and left. The homeless man still sat there, calmly sipping his water and looking out the window. The waitress approached the table again. "Sir," she said, "your check is ready. Would you like me to bring you some dessert or maybe some coffee?" The bum turned to her and said, "No, thank you. Keep the change." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a $500 bill. He placed it on the table and got up. He walked out of the restaurant without paying any attention to the surprised waitress. As he stepped out into the bright sunshine, the bum looked up at the sky and smiled. The warm breeze ruffled his unkempt hair, and for a moment he felt lighter than air. The waitress came back to her senses and rushed to the door. She wanted to call the man back and ask him what he had ordered, but he was already gone. She looked around to see if anyone had seen what had happened, but everyone at the restaurant was too busy enjoying their own meals. No one had noticed what had transpired between the bum and the waiter. She went back inside and picked up the $500 bill. She couldn't believe what had just happened. She had never met a homeless person who ordered caviar and paid the bill with a $500 bill. The next day, the waitress was surprised when she arrived at work and saw a shiny black Bentley parked outside the restaurant. She couldn't help but wonder who it belonged to. Could it be the homeless man from the previous day? She shrugged off the thought and went inside. As she walked past the window, her eyes widened in disbelief. Behind the wheel of the Bentley sat the same homeless man from the day before. He was dressed in a sharp suit and looked like a completely different person. He was smiling and talking on the phone as he waited for the valet to park the car. The waitress couldn't believe her eyes. How could a homeless person afford not only a meal at such an expensive restaurant, but also a luxury car worth hundreds of thousands of dollars? She shook her head in disbelief, wondering if what she was seeing was real or if she was dreaming. Suddenly, the man in the Bentley approached her. He was no longer dressed in rags, but in a tailored suit that looked like it had come straight out of a fashion magazine. "You probably don't recognize me anymore, do you?" he said with a smile. "It's me, the bum from yesterday." The waitress couldn't speak. She could only nod her head in response. The man laughed. "Let me introduce myself properly," he said. "My name is William Vanderbilt. I'm a successful businessman and a millionaire." The waitress was shocked. The millionaire from the restaurant wasn't the homeless man. It was the other way around. She had been so wrong. She stammered, trying to apologize for her mistake. But William just waved his hand dismissively. "It doesn't matter," he said. "Everyone has their own problems. You shouldn't judge others too quickly." He explained to her that he had gone to the restaurant to meet his friend, a successful businessman who was visiting from another city. I wanted to show him my favorite restaurant, but I didn't realize that he would order the most expensive things on the menu. I thought he was just a homeless man who was down on his luck. William continued. I told him about the amazing food and the great service at this place. Loved the atmosphere and the view. Although he didn't eat much, he enjoyed watching the other customers dine. He's a very observant person, and he noticed how hard you were working. He was impressed by your dedication and professionalism. That's why he tipped you so generously. The waitress blushed, embarrassed at how she had treated the homeless man. She had been so rude and disrespectful to him, and yet he had been so kind and generous. William handed her his card. Here, he said, come with me for a ride in my Bentley. We'll go to a charity event where you can meet some interesting people. You've earned it. The waitress hesitated, not knowing how to respond. She couldn't believe that she had been so wrong about William. And now he was offering her a chance to meet new people and experience a life she could only dream of. She looked at the card in her hand. It was from a prestigious restaurant. If she went with him, she would have a chance to learn more about his world and maybe even get a job at his company. She took a deep breath and smiled. Thank you, Mr. Vanderbilt, she said. That sounds like a wonderful opportunity. The two got into the Bentley, and William drove her to the charity event. There she met all kinds of important people, politicians, celebrities, and business tycoons. But the most important thing for her was that she had a chance to apologize to William for her behavior. I'm sorry I was so rude to you, she said. I didn't know you were a millionaire, and I judged you harshly. I'm ashamed of myself. William waved his hand dismissively. It's all in the past now, he said. I forgive you, and I'm glad we had a chance to meet. Maybe you can help me run my company one day. The waitress was surprised. She couldn't believe that he was offering her a job. She had never had any management experience, but she was willing to learn. From that day on, the waitress and William became good friends. She learned a lot from him about business and about life, and she never forgot the valuable lessons she had learned from the homeless millionaire.